it into the safest country in the Western Hemisphere. We're safer than any other country in the Western Hemisphere, which is, it was, if I would have said that 5 years ago, they would say that I was crazy, right?
Yes.
Because this was literally the most dangerous country in the whole world.
Your capital is now safer than our capital in Washington.
Yes.
A lot safer.
And the country is safer than the United States as a whole.
Yes.
The U.S. murder rate is around 6 murders per 100,000 inhabitants, and our murder rate is 2. So we're safer than Canada, safer than Chile, safer than Uruguay, safer than the U.S., safer than any country in the Western Hemisphere. There are countries in the other hemisphere that are safer than El Salvador, but not in the Western Hemisphere.
So you did that in just a couple of years?
Yes, we did that basically in 3 years. They achieved the terror that they want to create. So they can kill anybody. A woman walking by, a guy working in the street, a taxi driver. They can kill anybody. And if the state goes after them, the state has no intention of killing or harming anybody, but the gang members. So you have 70,000 objectives, which were the 70,000 gang members, but they have 6 million possible targets. So it was almost an impossible task.
It's a guerrilla war, really.
Yes, but it was an impossible task because you have to go after them. They were intertwined with the population, they were everywhere, and they were killing randomly. So how do you stop that? So we really tried to figure out what to do, and I basically said, well, we're looking into an impossible mission here. So we pray, and we.
You prayed in the meeting?
Yes, of course, several times. Yeah.
What did you pray for?
To wisdom, to win the war, to have. I thought at the time that we would have civilian casualties. So we said, we prayed that the civilian casualties will be as low as possible. And we didn't have any civilian casualties.
And was everyone in the meeting comfortable with that?
Yes. All my security cabinet are believers. They all believe in God. We're a secular country, of course, but we all believe in God, so yeah.
MS-13 is one of the major gangs.
And they are satanic also.
That was my question. So very
I'm
little...
sorry.
No, but I would hope you will explain it, because very little has been written in the West about this.
They're satanic, yes.
But actually, literally, can you explain?
Well, they didn't start as a satanic organization. MS-13 started in Los Angeles, in the U.S., because Salvadorans weren't allowed to sell drugs by the Mexican gangs. So they created a gang that was called the 18th Street Gang, because they basically wanted to sell drugs in a street that was 18th Street over there. But then division started they started dividing themselves and started infighting. So they created the MS-13. And then MS-13 started outgrowing the other gangs, and they started exporting the organization to other parts of the U.S. And when Bill Clinton decided to deport those guys, he didn't tell our government at the time, I'm deporting this criminal. They just, send them here. And they came, there were few, but unchecked. At the same time, some laws were passed to protect minors from imprisonment. And of course, the gangs use that to recruit 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds. So at the beginning it was, some youth causing harm assaulting, trying to control their territory, selling drugs, things that are bad, but probably not critical. But they grew, and they started controlling territories. A few years later, they were actually a huge international criminal organization that they have bases in Italy, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, the U.S. Basically, a lot of major cities in the U.S. will have strongholds of.
Right outside Washington, D.C.
Yes, of course. And you have in Long Island and
yes.
in L.A. It's a huge criminal international organization. So they grew and they started, killing more people just to get territory or to fight against rival gangs or to, collect debts or, money or whatever. But as the organization grew, they became satanic. They started doing satanic rituals. I don't know exactly when that started, but it was well documented.
Yes.
And in our arrest, we've even found altars and things like that.
Yes, I've seen them.
And we allowed them to go into prisons and do the interviews. And the guy they asked him, how many people have you killed? And he said, I don't remember. He didn't remember how many. Probably 10, 20. He didn't remember. And then they asked him, and what is your position in the gang? He explained how he went up in positions, but I left the gang. I said, why did you left the gang? And he said, well, because I was used to kill people, but I killed for territory. I killed to collect money. I killed for extortion. But I came to to this house, and they were about to kill a baby. And the killer that had killed tens of people, said, "Oh, wait, what are we doing? Why are we going to kill that baby?" And they told him, because the beast asked for a baby, so we have to give him a baby. So he said that he couldn't resist that, so he left the gang. He's in prison because he's a killer, but he left the gang because he couldn't tolerate what he was seeing.
So human sacrifice was a part.
Well, in the United States a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of days ago, I don't remember exactly, I saw the news that they were going to kill a young girl, or they killed a young girl, and don't exactly remember, because it was a satanic ritual. It happened in the U.S. a couple of weeks ago. Come and fix things. It's like, this is not about geopolitics or anything. I'm not going to even mention the countries. But I saw, somebody showed me the 600-meter railway that was built in California. And it cost $15 billion, something like that, to build the 600-meter piece of railway that they were building.
It's a lot per meter.
Yes. So, I mean, you cannot go on. I mean, it's like obvious. It's like somebody eats too much, right? I mean, you can be a little fat, right? It's fine. But then if somebody's morbidly fat, somebody will come and say, okay, you have to stop, right? Because, your heart can't take it anymore, right? You have to stop. Or somebody that drinks, I don't drink, but if somebody drinks, doctor might say, your liver can't take that anymore. Look at your liver, how it is right now. Or the lungs for smoker, whatever. When you see things like that, 600 meters of railway, $15 billion, 10 years, there's no other possible diagnosis. I mean, you have to stop that fast now, because if not, the decline is inevitable. It's inevitable. I mean, it's already there. It's not like, I'm telling you, I foresee. No. I mean, it's there. I mean, it's $15 billion to make a 600-meter piece of railway that's not even working in 10 years. The Empire State was built in a year, 1 year. They built the Empire State. Things were working, right? I don't know how were things back then, I don't know, but they built the Empire State in 1 year. What happened with the World Trade Center, Freedom Tower, they was changed the name that later to World Trade Center. How long did it take?
Forever.
Yeah. And it was, the whole country united to build it. There was no budgetary, I mean, I know it was private, but it was no, if it needed budgetary, it was not a problem of budget or investors willing to pour money on it or engineers. I mean, why would it take over a decade to build something that was so significant for the whole country? I mean, you could build the tallest building in the world. You didn't. You could have built the tallest building in the world and said, okay, we're coming back bigger and stronger. We're going to build, we got a hit, but now we're going to build back better and stronger, build back better and stronger, right? Or whatever. And build it, 2-mile high skyscraper. I'm not a fan of 2-mile high skyscrapers, but you could have done that. I mean, you have the money, you have the resources, you have the engineers, you have the market. Because if I built a mile skyscraper, I can fill with offices because I don't have enough market to fill with residences and offices or whatever. You do have the market in New York to to build offices, and you want hotel rooms. I mean, you would feel like this, but you didn't. You took over a decade to build a very unimpressive building. So, and that was 23 years ago?
Yes.
Now you're building 600-meter railways with $15 billion. So how long it would take to rebuild the Baltimore Bridge? It should take a year.
How long would it take here?
Here?
Yeah.
A year. 2 years. And we're a small, poor country. I mean, we're one of the poorest nations in the world, right?
No, that's why this is so shameful and interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the U.S. has they have still unlimited amounts of resources because you can just print money, right? That's another topic, but you can just print whatever. How much it's worth? I mean, would you want to do it? But we want to build it made of gold. I mean, you can do anything, right? You just, how much is it? Do it.
So that sounds like a systemic failure. It doesn't sound like...
It's a systemic failure.
Yeah.
What you didn't have before you got, right? You took from, Mexico or whatever. So the U.S. was built to be a superpower, right? Acquire land, acquire fertile lands, Texas was part of Mexico, but it's part of the U.S. and you have all the oil there. So, and then you have California. And the U.S. is built as a superpower. So the U.S. has everything to go on for 1,000 years. It's not like it's doomed to fail. But apparently the leaders, or most of them, you have probably very good leaders, but most of the leaders, they're not seeing it. They either are evil, or this is not conspiracy theory. It's just the options you have. Either they're evil, and they want to destroy the U.S. because of some evil reason, or they're puppets, and they are being handled as people that need the U.S. to be destroyed for some reason, or they're incompetent, and they just doing wrong stuff because they're not capable of doing the right stuff. Or, sorry I said three, but the incentives, right? Changing a country and changing a lot of things that are badly done probably will anger some people, right? Some groups, some lobbies, some interests. If you say, okay, we're going to stop the railway that's costing us $15 billion per 600 meters, a lot of companies will be angry, a lot of, mayors. You have a system that needs to be handled. So, and that needs leadership, and it needs a clear mandate that is probably a little hard to get in the U.S. because of, opposite views and
Yes.
the bipartisanship. But you need.
Well, ultimately, as you well know, since you've succeeded in it so thumpingly, the instrument for all of that is the ballot, is the election itself.
Yeah.
Like, how many votes do you get? That's your mandate. Mm-hmm. But I think there is a sense among a lot of non-conspiracy-minded voters in the United States that part of the system is itself corrupt.
Yes.
And that it is actually hard to affect change through voting because it's rigged. And so with that in mind, do you think Trump, he's ahead in the polls, do you think he can get elected?
Well, yes, he can get elected. Yeah. I'll give you an example. In 2019, the system was totally rigged. I mean, they canceled our party. I mean, we were running with a party, and they canceled it. I mean, they annulled our party. So I was partyless. So we went to a small party and said, you don't have any candidates, you're very small, do you want to win the election? So we got that party registration, and they canceled that party. Yeah. And they canceled that party in the last day that you can file the candidacies. So we got a medium-sized party at 11 p.m., and we were able to file our candidacy. So it was not like it was easy or the system wasn't rigged. It was just so fair that we just, we put up our proposals and the people just voted. It was very hard to win. And then when we won, since we didn't have simultaneous parliamentary elections, we actually went to the executive branch, totally opposed to the legislative branch and the judicial branch. So they control the Supreme Court, and they control 90% of the legislative body. So I had to veto everything, and they override my vetoes, and they approved over 70 laws that I veto. Yes, and everything that we do, Supreme Court, is unconstitutional. Yeah. So we went to the people and said, we cannot work like this. We need a majority in Congress. We need a huge majority in Congress because we not only need to approve laws, we need to get all these people out. And the only way to get it out democratically and respecting the rules of the system is that we get a huge, immense majority in Congress, right? Because Congress can fire anybody, even the president.
Yes.
So people gave us the huge majority. And it was hard because they still control the electoral tribunal as of today. That's why our election was recognized by all the countries in the world. Because they know the electoral tribunal is controlled by the opposition. Still,
it's the only thing that's controlled.
It's the only thing, and we have libertad, so that validates and legitimizes everything else. So but the thing is that in 2021, when we went to congressional elections, we carried a supermajority. That they said it was impossible, because the system was designed so you cannot get a supermajority. But we got it. We got more than that, and then. With that supermajority, there is an article in the Constitution that allows the supermajority in Congress to fire the Supreme Court justices. So our party fired the Supreme Court justices when they got the majority. They fired the Attorney General, which in the States, the President appoints the Attorney General. Here is Congress. Congress elects the Attorney General, Congress fires the Attorney General. But you need 2/3 of Congress to fire an Attorney General. So we got 75% of Congress.
But you stayed within the rules the whole time.
We have never not respected a single rule.